Big safety. Big safety.
I'm taking math and I took 5. I'm gonna read it.
What is this math one? Because I'm holding this.
They said not to take that too. If you take it into account. You have to.
Yeah, I know.
I shouldn't have been doing
But like, I like standardized tests.
Well, one of my friends out in was better for one than it was but I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
You could take
All right. Excuse me.
Plus like right now.
You've all warmed up. Your stamp homework. Wanted poster sign up still. Anybody need to sign up for their species last call?
I don't have a species.
Who? If all else fails and you don't have a species ready to go, just photograph the paper, go home and select a species and sign it tomorrow. On Wednesday, you can still show up and be like, did anybody take this one? But if you do one for Thursday, and you don't have, and somebody's already chosen, you don't get credit. So if you're not ready to sign up, take a picture and sign up tomorrow. So you know that field trip next Monday? I've done that by myself with like 150 students for the last like 10 years in a row, but this year they didn't approve it without parents. I don't know why. I'm a little bit frustrated because whenever parents have just joined me in the past because they're interested or they want to hang out or whatever, it turns out to be too much work to have parents there. Like having parents along usually does not help. But they made me, so I need parents, and if we don't have 5 parents, we can't go next Monday. I think you already know all the details. We've talked about this already. It is next Monday from 8:15 until 1:45, and I need parents to come along. If your parents are down, they can text me. They would just come and eat their lunch picnic and chill and hang out with us, and that's the end. Are there any questions about that? Yes?
Is there like a permission slip?
There will be, and the sketchy thing is you get them tomorrow and they're due on Thursday. I mean, on your block day. Okay. Nick Fairbanks, Jason Feinberg, Emily Hay. So let's do a bunch more biomes, and I'm hoping we can do most of them today. You'll need your 3.3 notes, which I believe you already had out. Did we do the temperate deciduous forest already?
Yes.
That's great news. Did we do the temperate rain forest?
Yeah.
Is it? I looked at that the Smart Events AP guide. It has a bunch of them in there. It's like,
Does everybody realize you can invent as many biomes as you want? Because there's no clear distinction on what's one biome and what's the next one. So some people say that there's like subtropical rainforest, temperate rainforest, dry tropical forest, tropical cloud forest, high altitude tropical cloud forest, high altitude tropical dry forest. Like all you got to do is come up with a name for it. You can make as many biomes as you want.
Someone left the top of the feed bucket off, so it's wet. Should I take off all the wet feed?
Yeah.
If I have the feeds to the there's like 5 chickens in there just having a ball.
We wasted like $60.
I didn't do it.
I know you didn't. I know who did it. Colton Ingram. Death threats to follow. Where were we? Were we talking about something? Oh yeah, the number of biomes. You can invent as many biomes as you want. Like some books just have 6. Because like desert is definitely different from rainforest. It's definitely different from boreal. It's definitely different from tundra. So like, you know you can get 6. And then some of them, like, here's what I was about to say. Some of them, like this one, the temperate rainforest that we talked about, with the big giant trees up in the Pacific Northwest, That's a fairly minor biome. It's just temperate forest where the jet stream hits the continent. So it's a temperate forest with a ton of rain because the jet stream comes off the ocean and hits there. They're all in the same spot. And then here's another example of a perfectly made up biome, temperate woodland. This is the dry extreme of temperate forest. So most temperate forest is deciduous, but there's a little bit of temperate rainforest where the jet stream hits the continent, and there's a little bit of what's called temperate woodland, which is the drier temperate. And again, I have nothing else to tell you. That was it. I already finished. It's like in the US, you've got a little bit here in the south. There's a little bit on the equatorial coast of South America. There's a little bit near the Mediterranean and up there. And that's probably what they have here. It's called temperate woodland, and it's like a drier temperate forest. There's conifers that are adapted. Instead of being giant because it rains all day, they're kind of smaller and denser conifers because it doesn't rain all year. That's all I know. Like, if you ask me more stuff, I'll make it up. But, some of the biomes are kind of small, and we don't have a lot to say about them because, your book just sort of threw it in there, but a lot of people don't even see it as a biome. Well, that was fun. Looks like that. The one that I do want to talk about is this one because we live here and you need to know this one. How many of you have lived in Santa Barbara for more than 10 years? Okay. If your hand's not up, just chill. But for those of you who know Santa Barbara, you've been here for more than 10 years, we've had like a couple of really dry years in a row, but long-term averages in those 10 years or longer, like what is the most average forecast? Like, if I don't tell you the day of the year, I need you to give me the weather forecast for one day in 2016. What's your weather forecast most likely to be accurate?
70 degrees with some high clouds.
Yeah, maybe 75, 70, like a high of 75, like it'll peak at around 1 p.m., 75, maybe 4 p.m. Everybody agree that's pretty much like in February, that's like half the days. And in March, that's like half the days. And in like August, that's like half the days, maybe a high of 76 in August. And then in like December, it's like, half the days, maybe a high of 71. Oh, zipping up pants today. Weather's changing. It's still the same right now as it was all last week. It was a little bit moist this morning, so I need pants. Now I wish I had shorts. Welcome to Santa Barbara.
You should get those like pants that zip off at the knee.
I would have to kick my own ass if I wore those.
Not a teacher has this.
I'm a bad man. I'm just a straight up bad person.
Wait, who has it?
Shh, it's cool, it's cool, it's cool. I love it. Alright, oops. Almost every day is like pretty nice, not too cold, not too hot. What are your chances of rain on any particular day? Just at random. Chance of rain will be
Like 5.
0%. Like there's those 3 days when we get rain, and those 3 days we get rain. How much rain do we get? Usually.
10 minutes, maybe.
Hold on. Who's a local? Like been here for more than 10 years. When we get a rainstorm, like not yesterday, that's a blip. When we get a rainstorm, like the kind that we see coming, how much rain do we usually get?
Couple hours.
Santa Barbara gets like somewhere between 3/4 of an inch is the average for a storm, but anybody who's been on the hillsides, Gibraltar Community, West Camino Cielo, Painted Cave. Anybody been up there for the rain? It's like a gang initiation of weather up there. It's like short, sudden, heel over, blood coming out. The single wettest rain station in the NOAA system has most often, in the last 100 years, been the East Camino Cielo fire station. I lived on West Camino Cielo, and one day we got 18 inches of rain in 24 hours. And then the next day before noon, we got another 7 inches. So in a period of 36 hours, we got 25 inches of rain
That's more than Santa Barbara gets.
in 2 years. Yeah, that's more than Santa Barbara gets in an average of 2 years. Yeah, we got it in a day and a half. Our ridge lines get hammered. Have y'all noticed how we get flooding every time it rains? Because we live basically on a coastal wetland, downhill of a giant 3,000-foot funnel. Like if you live in Cedo, like when we get a good rain, like you ever notice how the water goes over all the bridges and stuff, and like everybody who's got houses, they get like flooding, and like all the brick like retaining walls against are all like eroded and like covered with like moss and stuff. You get water up really high, you get algae. Like, you ever see like when the water recedes, there's like all those sticks like stuffed up into trees, like wow, the water is all the way up there. Our weather's really unique. We have constant mellow with occasional holy crap, it's raining a lot.
Took it all off.
Did you get dry stuff underneath?
Yeah, there's a lot of dust.
Sweet. That's good. Yeah, there's only like a half inch of rain. The mold is going to be a problem now. Any moisture in there will probably mold up. So we might need to tip over that trash can into another one to make sure that there's not like water settling at the bottom of the trash can.
Oh.
And while we're at it, I forgot to do this to you earlier. We have some extra food to mix in. And we probably don't need to feed them until they eat all that stuff off the ground. If it just got wet yesterday, it'll be good for another couple of days. Chaparral, this is an important fact for you to remember, please look up, is those red strips. You'll notice that there's 5 of them. And look at this cool pattern. They're in a perfect straight line at 35 south and a perfect straight line at 35 north. So, 35 north and south. On the west coast of the continents. And every continent has one. If you want to know, it's because they're on the edge of the dry band. Basically, this is between 2 convection currents. So basically, we have a desert air mass that occasionally gets hammered by jet stream. So that's the case in all the other places. It's a desert that's on the flirting edge of a jet stream. And does anybody know what chaparro means? If you speak Mexican Spanish, it's a word you should know. It means what?
Oh, never mind. Short.
Yeah, short, short. And by the way, that usually has a stereotype, like a connotation of being like, you know. But it's a term of endearment. Anybody call chaparro in their family? Yeah, okay, perfect, I love it. So usually it's like, you know, like the cute kid, you know, it's like, oh, he's a little short guy. So good. Chaparro means a short person, and so chaparral means a dwarf forest. Short. And we, you know, like in Argentina, we don't use this word, but among Mesoamericans, it's not usually an insult. It's not supposed to be mean. You know the weather. It's pretty much moderate with rare heavy storms. We get all of our rain in 3 to 4 weather events per year. So if you think about it, those are actually kind of significant because our average rainfall even in downtown Santa Barbara is like 10 inches a year, 10 to 12. But you know those dry periods when it's not raining? Those are the longest dry periods of any biome. We have drier summers than any desert. It's not hotter and it's not colder, but it's drier. I've had years where the rain stopped before spring break and didn't start until Thanksgiving break. So that's like last week of March until last week of November. That's what, 8 months? Is that right? Yeah, 8 months. An 8-month dry period? That's brutal. Like, you know, when you go to the Mojave Desert, it pretty much rains a little bit most days of summer. Little thunderstorms. They're not a lot of rain, but they're like little spritz. Here's a fact a lot of my students are surprised by. You find me like the toughest desert plants, like succulents from any desert you want, and if you leave it outside in Santa Barbara without extra water, they'll die. You know, the plants which are invasive here, they're from other Mediterranean climates. Like ice plant is invasive here, ivy is invasive here, eucalyptus is invasive here. Those are from South African Mediterranean zone, European Mediterranean zone, and the Australian Mediterranean zone. Yeah.
Where are the eucalyptuses from?
Australia. Yeah, and there's a lot of eucalyptuses that don't do very well here.
Yeah, I had eucalyptus outside of my house. It's like bamboo's just falling.
Yeah, because it's not looking too good.
Branches, just all the like, it just shed so much. It just makes
True, yeah, they're a nightmare. I hate eucalyptus myself. They're okay firewood. But these huge ones, the ones that like live on their own without irrigation in Santa Barbara, these are from Australia's chaparral. We have drier hot spells than any desert, so pretty much everything that grows here is just trying to figure out how to survive for 8 months when it's the hottest and sunniest, waiting for the rain to hit. So there's something that all of you know if you have like a view of the wilderness from your house. If your house can see like native landscape, you know, without irrigation, it looks dead most of the year. And then it'll rain a little bit and all the leaves come out and then it'll flower like crazy and then it dies again. Anybody ever notice that? Okay, that's very Santa Barbara. The plant's totally shut down. They have extreme wood density. If you've ever tried bushwhacking through the chaparral, it's rough on the body because the plants are super woody and they're super low, dwarf forests. We've got like 3 big tree species. They all live in the creeks. Maples, sycamores, and oaks. They only live in the creeks where there's a lot of water. But if you go out to the hillside, anybody seen a scrub oak? They're like spindly and small, and they have little dwarf leaves. And they look dead a lot of the year.
Stuff my hand in is pretty moist in the middle. So
I don't know how to deal with this. My suggestion would be like try to stir it, like flip it all over into another. Do we have another trash?
they're all down.
What?
One of them's full of trash, the other one's down.
The one that's full of trash, throw it all out. And then we'll leave it open. We gotta deal with this fast and lose all the food. So
Yeah.
one way or another, we need to spread that and air dry it. Like putting it into another trash can with air dry.
But like that much, because it's just gonna pile on top of each other and then be moist again.
5 trash cans or buckets or
The
I don't know, bro.
Who did this?
I think Colton.
What's that pattern?
Here, well, he'll do some other stuff too. Same combo
Oh, is
with
it
the
pattern?
trash can. That he opens the brown
Wait, is
ones,
that supposed to be a
the- sorry,
Field
buckets,
trip.
trash cans.
So the
Field
buckets,
trip.
the other one?
And trash cans in the
Okay, so that's the
bar. Okay, wood density, small plants. We have wax on the leaves. So if you've ever looked up at the hillside, you'll notice that they look really dusty. That's because they're really dusty. You know, wax picks up dust. So that, you know, that look, that's a very chaparral look. Do y'all agree with me that that's kind of like a unique color to our hillside? That like dusty green? That's actually not common. Like you go to Colorado and all those like pine trees, they look like BAM green. They're like shiny, like mid-value green. Like you get a bucket of green paint, that's pine tree. But that does not look like a bucket of green paint. That was like a bucket of green paint. This was a bucket of gray paint or purple paint. And that's because the wax on the leaves, they're waxy, they keep in their water. Also, if you've ever tried to dig a hole in the chaparral, once you get away from the creeks, you know it's very difficult to dig holes because we do not have soil. Did you all hear about that very unfortunate homicide of a boy who was kidnapped in the hillsides of Santa Barbara? They forced him to dig his own grave up at the Lizard's Mouth and then they shot him there.
recently.
It's been about a decade now. I knew like 3 of the families involved. What was the guy's name? I want to say Himovitz, but that's a mad kid. I know it wasn't him. God, I can't believe I forgot his name. Anybody know what I'm talking about? How many of you have heard this story? Like a local drug dealer, like pretty much dumbass.
Didn't they like take his little brother and kill him?
Right. I'm a drug dealer. My client owes me. That's what I'm going to say right now. I am the drug dealer. My client owes me money. Is out of town, so I kidnap his little brother. And I'm like, bro, I'm going to kill your brother if you don't give me the money. And the guy's like, I'm out of town. Sorry about that. And the drug dealer plus his 3 dumbass buddies take the little brother of the debtor who had no debt. The little brother was just like some innocent bystander. Take him up to the mouth, point guns at him, and go, bro, now dig your own grave. And the guy starts digging, and they go, okay, fine, I'll go sit in it, and then they shoot him. You can see that grave. Somebody has carved a little headstone into a nearby rock. It's at Lizard's Mouth. The reason I mentioned this is because the grave was like that deep, and then it hit sandstone. We don't have any dirt in Santa Barbara. Tough place to dispose of a body. We don't have any dirt because soil ecology doesn't work here. Decomposers can't survive here. Do you understand that? Because it's always dry? What kind of bacteria can live 8 months without water? None of them. So we don't have soil. We have sand. And thus, plants have evolved to take all of their nutrients from runoff. They don't really take some of, you know those little nitrogen-fixing bacteria? Not here. Our soil has pretty much none of that soil-building bacteria. It's just sand. So those of you who hike or live in the backcountry, Mission Canyon, Montecito Hills, you know something. How do our plant communities recycle all their nutrients from dried up dead stuff to fresh new growth? Hint, look at the photograph. Fire. We are what's called a fire renewal community. And that's a vocab term that's going to come up a lot. It's what it says, so you don't really need a definition because it's these words. I'm guessing you don't need me to define that because you know what fire means and what renewal means and what community means. You've seen this. We're an ecosystem that shuts down, no soil ecology, no decomposers, very little activity. And then when we get hit by the rain, everything grows. If it's a rain after a storm, everything will grow and flower. And then we shut down again for 8 months of suck. That's one of the many reasons that I leave Santa Barbara during the summer, because I love the rain. So I go to the Sierras where it rains all the time. We have interesting stories, so someday, on the Mad trip, when we go on the Mad Island trip, I will tell you the story of this bird. Anybody know what bird this is? Alright. So you know this because you live here, high wood density, seed dispersal, long dry period, and extremely wet storms when they happen. And we have cut up a small number to begin with into a small number left. Let me just, before you write this down, does everybody understand the problem when you have an extremely small percentage of an extremely small starting value? Mathematically, this is simple, right? Alexia, you can't type messages on your binder. It doesn't work. You would need a phone for that. Unless... Is that the most poorly hidden phone in the history of high school? Just put your phone away, Alexia Clarks. We don't have a lot of Mediterranean in the first place. No, just cover it up. Please put your phone away. I'm going to throw something. God, it's so distracting. We didn't have a lot to begin with, and then we've used up like 90-odd% of it. This is why all the hippies get so uppity about the Gaviota coast development. It's like, yeah, I know, we're just talking about like a few acres. That's like the biggest chunk of undeveloped Mediterranean coastline in the United States, but it's possibly the biggest chunk of undeveloped Mediterranean coastline on Earth. Like that little stretch of Gaviota is like about the biggest chunk that we have left of that biome. There's others, but we're down to the very last few. All right. This one is easy to understand because everybody knows what grass is. It's all this orange stuff. Anybody know what human activity occurs in the orange? If you know about the American Midwest, what do we do with all that land that is orange on this map?
Prairie, or like farmland.
Farmland, wood, yeah. It used to be prairie, now it's farm. That is America's breadbasket, is that what they call it? The Corn Belt? Okay, so I am from the South American breadbasket / Corn Belt. Russia grows all of their food in the Russian orange thing. Europe grows most of their food in the Mediterranean one. Those little orange chunks in Asia and South America and Africa, those are where all the food comes from. And it's a great place to grow food because the dirt is awesome and there's rain every season. For a lot of us in Santa Barbara, it's totally impossible to imagine this, but globally, summer has a lot of rain. Because there's a lot of evaporation, there's a lot of evaporations, there's a lot of clouds, there's a lot of clouds, a lot of rain. Grassland has 4 rainy seasons. Winter, spring, summer, and fall rains. And has everybody noticed that grass grows pretty fast if you water it? Has anybody knows what happens if you like take a 3-week vacation and your sprinklers stay on and you come back, like the grass is like totally tall and it's all seeding? I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you leave the grass alone for like a month, it goes to seed. Back in my day, I used to mow my own lawn at my parents' house, and like I remember if I broke my ankle, it's like crap. It's gonna be like totally seeding when I get back there. So what looks like 4 different seasons of grass is actually 4 separate communities of grass. There's like the spring ones, and then they set their seed, and then there's the summer ones, and then they set their seed. There's the fall grass, and then there's the, and each of these is a different species adapted to that season. Grasslands have tremendous diversity, even though it just looks like grass is grass is grass is grass. But if you look closely, or you're a botanist, or you're a nerd, or you're a farmer, or a rancher, or you live there, upon closer inspection, they're all different grasses. Each of the seasons has its own grass because there's the own rainy part of each season. Yeah?
So is it like natural crop rotation? So the soil's really good?
It is precisely what you just said. It's a natural crop rotation, so the soil's really good. With two bonus ingredients. Water added, which makes for even better irrigation potential and soil quality, right? Because it rains every season. And the other thing is, does anybody remember which plants in the nitrogen cycle had the most root nodules? People call them cover crops or soil building crop, but it's not the crop, it's the bacteria that lives in the root nodules. Remember this? But which plants have the most? Like, what do you use nitrogen compounds in plants for? Well, you're supposed to know this. Nitrogen in life is used for
Proteins.
proteins. It's used for proteins. And which plants need the most proteins? Like if you're a vegetarian, you eat what? Stuff with a lot of seeds. You know that grass makes a lot of seeds. So these are all nitrogen-fixing grasses. So grassland has the most nitrogen. That's the other benefit. This is by far the best soil. 20 feet deep. Look at it. Grow, die, grow, die, grow, die, grow, die. Every time that these things grow, they're fixing nitrogen, and then they die, and they provide compost. And it says layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of dead grass on top of dead grass on top of dead grass with a bunch of water to help it all decompose and like thriving ecological communities in the soil. Holy crap! If you're a farmer and you see this photograph, like eyes light up and they'll like start to salivate. And then you ask them, what's the animal in this photograph? And they'll be like, what animal? Because that is beautiful dirt. Farmers dream of that dirt. You don't know dirt. Sorry. You know a lot of other things that are all really valuable and important. But if you had to grow your food, you'd be fired up on that dirt. That is some good dirt right there. Like 5 stars. Like if you could get like 20 acres of that land, set for life. People in the Midwest sell their dirt. They put it on train cars and they ship it off. There's a story about some pilgrim that like took a day off to go dig an outhouse, and like the wife and children are like, oh my God, it's dark, where's Paul? And they go find him in the yard, and he's like, oh my God, I can just keep digging forever. And the guy was like 20 feet down with a shovel just digging this giant outhouse. He's like, we've got dirt. Because people who grow dirt, they love this stuff. It's just like compost, 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 compost for like the last 14 million years or whatever, 40,000 years. Since the last ice age, it's just been like building dirt. That's pretty sweet. And we have a lot of interesting species stories to tell, but we don't have a lot of time. But does anybody know why this animal is important to American history? I would not expect you to know. Anybody know what this is? Bison, which is the American buffalo. Buffalo live on all continents, but ours is called the American buffalo, and we also know it as bison. Anybody seen bison? American buffalo? Anybody eaten American buffalo / bison? It's delicious. We almost killed them. We thought they were extinct, and then we found 2 little clumps. in the United States. They've remained plentiful in parts of Canada. So thanks again, Canada. Canada has delivered us huge numbers of buffalo to restore our American buffalo populations in this country. But for a while, we thought they were all gone. And I'll give you a hint. It wasn't an accident. Colton, take us? What's up? Can you find another period? Thanks. Okay. Why did the hell die? What? We killed them. Those are buffalo skulls.
Wow.
You gotta admit, that's a powerful photograph, right? Like, damn, that's a lot of buffalo. I guess he climbed them to get up there. He walked up the pot.
That's a lot of buffalo.
I know, right?
It's fallen down like 8 times.
Yeah, can you imagine just like,
You slide.
like scree surfing that with all the horns and like the sharp nose part? Like, I would not want to fall down. That would be so rough. Why would we kill them all?
Fruit.
What?
The fruit.
Their fur? No. They have really nice fur, but no. Yeah.
They were overgrazing on grassland.
No.
Oh, is it for their horns?
No, it's not for their horns. You can see how they're just piled up as like trash. Yeah. No, as a matter of fact, they're delicious. I have a lot of meat. But they were, we hired professional hunters to sit on trains and just shoot them from a moving train as our trains traveled the rail lines. We offered a bounty for dead buffalo.
Were they just overgrazing people's crops?
Nope. Yeah.
They were an obstruction to the railroad? Or they were
You know, they may have been. That's an interesting issue, but I don't think that's why we killed them, no. That's why we invented what are called cattle gates, which is that thing in the front of the train that looks like this. So it just like, just rocket launches them onto the side. It's pretty sweet. I've seen a cattle gate work on a cow.
It doesn't kill
Oh no, hitting anything with a train will kill it. But the good thing is, instead of running it over and derailing the train, it literally like, cattle gates have these like snow plows that are like a half inch above the railroad, the rail. And so they just peel them and throw them off the sides. And if you hit a buffalo in the middle, you get the butt going this way, the head going that way.
Because it's pretty sharp at the end.
It's sharp enough. I mean, if you hit something really fast with a sledgehammer, you break it in half, right? It's just the force applied, and that's a measure of the speed.
So you just get it.
But the whole point is to get it out of the way. So I don't think they were a navigational issue. We already had cattle gates on our trains by then. Why did we kill them all? Yeah.
Was it a safety thing? Like they were scared of?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a buffalo. They're not that scary. Yeah.
They used their skulls or something?
Nope. They were just to assign a bounty. In some places, they would take your word for it. Sometimes you had to bring the ear. Sometimes you had to bring the gonads, and sometimes you had to bring a skull.
Did it have to do with like status? Same with
Maybe. A man will brag about anything. But I don't know. I don't think so. That's not the reason that the government paid for this. Yeah. This was the first national species extinction done as an act of war. We starved the Indians. Or at least we tried anyway. We tried to starve the Plains Indians. Is that unremarkable?
Like killing all the buffalo?
Yep.
Wouldn't they keep like the grasslands really fertile too?
Oh yeah. I mean, the whole predator effect, diversity regulation thing. So coincidentally, now that there's no more buffalo on the American prairie, but in many places wild horses have been introduced and are starting to spread across the American prairie, we call the wild horse the non-invasive invasive. It's not really much of a problem. because wild horses have replaced the predator effect diversity maintenance of buffalo.
Fills up little buckets until what was there was dry. They put the buckets outside, so the chickens don't eat in the buckets.
You're so good. You're too good. How wet was that food?
It was like 1 to 10 to 2. So it's just like kind of damp and cold.
Got it. Like me.
I wrote in probably like a pound of bone meal or whatever that white powder is.
Oh, okay, thanks. Beauteous.
Is it bad for you?
No. Okay, anybody else want to talk about this? Is that not interesting? Like, am I the only person that finds this neat? I think that's super neat. Because it's such good farmland, we don't have a lot. We have very little, actually.
President, I have a question. If they're shooting them from the train
Okay.
and they got paid for it,
Yeah.
how would they know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because
I don't know. Maybe they had somebody else that was in charge, or. I mean, this is all stuff that I've heard, like, as people who know history. Like, I'm basically 90% of what I tell you, I'm making it up. Good luck finding the stuff that I'm not making up. Yeah. And the last one that I want to talk about is tropical rainforest. And again, this is one that I think you know about, even though you've probably never seen it. But this is a popular one. It's the dark green along the equator. Everybody always thinks about like Brazil. A lot of us forget that Africa also has very much of this. And you know it when you see it. What's the weather like? Yeah, rainforest has an appropriate name. It pretty much rains every day. Anybody been to like mid-elevation Costa Rica, Brazilian Amazon, northern Argentina even, Paraguay, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Belize, mountains. So pretty much rained every day, right? Like right around 12:30, 1:30, it rained every day. That's it. All the water from yesterday will evaporate until it builds up these giant cumulus clouds, and you can watch it coming. It's like, yep, here we go, 10 minutes, I'm gonna take off my shirt now. Yeah, okay, and then it starts to rain, and it's like 45 minutes later, and it's like, okay, just put the shirt on the railing, let it dry out. I went to Belize for my honeymoon, and I took like just in case pants, and just in case jacket, just in case flannel, or just in case hoodie. God, I wish I hadn't wasted the space. Pretty much I wore like trunks, my extra trunks, like never had to come out because they got washed in the rain every day. And I wore t-shirt. And daily I would go, t-shirt got wet when it rained, so I went up with t-shirt on the railing. And then half an hour later you put on a dry, crisp t-shirt. What's the temperature like?
Hot and humid.
Yeah, hot and humid. All day, right? Have you ever been to these places? Like nighttime is just as good. Like, same. So much temperature, so much water that's got a lot of like thermal capacity. It's like you're in a big old pool and it just stays the same temperature. And then there's light. So much light. You know, I don't know if we really talked about this study goal already, but the most diverse ecosystems are the ones that are either highly productive, because there's a lot of like food supply to cut up into niches. And the ones that are the most consistent, because you can't specialize if the environment is dynamic. Did we discuss this? Generalists are really good for a dynamic environment, but you can specialize if the environment is consistent, right? Like if you need that daily rain as part of your specialization, you lay your eggs in puddles, that's fine. It's gonna rain every day if it's a consistent environment, so you can specialize. Does that make sense to everybody? These are highly productive ecosystems. It's like a natural greenhouse. Like if you go to a commercial greenhouse, they're just trying to build a rainforest. So it's perfect plant growth, super productivity, and super consistent. Every day is the exact same. That was the one boring thing about Belize. It was always the same. So everything is growing, there's no shortage of water, and the plants, they're just waiting for the next round of nutrients, not water, no nutrients. You know, when you look at this, you imagine like, whoa, that's gotta be some really good dirt, right? Like, look at that. Like, I'm pretty sure that's good dirt. And it's not. It's the worst dirt on the planet. Imagine, all those plants, they got all the water they need, all the light they can possibly use. They're just waiting for nutrients to hit the ground. Imagine walking into a refugee camp and then throwing like a roasted turkey on the ground. How long is that going to sit around on the ground? Right? These plants, they're like starving. I don't mean to trivialize refugeeism, but what I mean to say is when a nutrient decomposes into that soil, it literally soaked up as it's decomposing. So nothing in the soil, the worst dirt on the planet. Pretty much no dirt. You have so much specialization that look at that. There's one diversity on the bottom and one diversity in the middle and one diversity at the top with one diversity poking out. So many niches, hyper specialized. All because of the constant water. So you get what are called the layers. And I think you could probably guess the terms. I don't think you need to memorize them, but just in case, there they are. The emergent pokes out. The canopy is the one that gets the most sunlight. Understory is a little bit lower. Shrub layer is near the ground. The floor is obviously the floor. And there's even stuff that lives underground here because it's so productive that you can carve out many, many specialized niches. We've got weird frogs I can tell you stories about. Weird birds I can tell you stories about. Weird insects I can tell you stories about. You should know, though, that this is pretty much no man's land. This is a useful environment because of all the water and all the productivity and all the diversity that's useful to us. Exotic pets for sale. A lot of water means a lot of rivers, means a lot of mining potential. There's a lot of woods. If you burn all that stuff, you can grow food for a while because it waters itself. And it's remote. This is not a comfortable place for humans. If you've ever been like in the deep rainforest, you wanted to die or leave. It's not an easy environment. Not a good place to just like go frolic with your children. So because it's so remote, law enforcement is kind of powerless, which makes this a very fragile environment. We're done. Bye, children.
That's helpful one too.
Can't wait.
That's helpful one too.
I will give her no credit.
That's fun, man.
I give her a really hard time.